Well, guys, today is a beautiful day here in Asker, where I live in Norway. And I thought I'd go outside because it was so nice to work outside. And today I explored video mic a little bit more from road. And as far as I know, it's working because I can see the signals. But the actual thing I wanted to talk about today is stage monitoring. And more specifically in-ear monitoring. A lot of you guys have seen on television that this is the really way to go, and all of them have this nice earbuds, and it's terrific. You might think it is, and on a big stage, it's probably the best solution if you have a monitor guy with you. But most of you don't travel around monitor guys, and you have to do this the hard way, and that's when a four-piece band, for instance, show up, and they all have done this rather big investment in some cases, and I want to use this system in a small club, and well, that's perfectly okay. But it depends on what you're turning up to. Because suddenly you put a very big strain on the front of the house. I'm sorry about the train, but I have to live with that. It puts a big responsibility on the front of house guy. That's me in many cases. It suddenly goes from 4 auxiliary buses, 4, up till 8 auxiliary buses. And you might think, why is that? Why can't I drive it mono? Yeah, of course they can, but it's not a big point. The big point is to use the system like it's supposed to, and then you need stereo buses. So you can pan or lower or raise the volume of the band compared to your own channel, which is in most cases what we call a more me channel. And knowing musicians, they always want to hear more me. I mean, that's a natural thing. So, especially singers, they want to hear their voice loud and clear. It brings up a couple of things because, first of all, suddenly you need 8 auxiliary buses just for this. And that leaves you nothing usually. Of course, if you have more than 16 buses on your console, you can use them. Yeah, you need quite a few auxiliary buses to handle this because 2 of them already go to the left and right, for instance, and a couple of others goes to external processing gear, and it starts to creep down. And the older analog gear doesn't have this many auxes, and yeah, on many boards it's not that easy just to switch them to stereo buses. And if you're not familiar on how you do this, it's gonna put a little stress factor on you because you have to figure out the console's way of working. Most digital stuff, and it's usually quite easy, but in the battle they turn up with this system, and worst case scenario, if it's 4 different systems, then you really have the work cut out for you, and it eats up all your time because you're using all your time to get this to work properly, and they get very picky with what they hear. I need a little bit more playing in the right cymbal in this ear, and you've been nitpicking like this with with a band, and it's not cool, I tell you that. So in a small club, in my opinion, it doesn't really belong there. It belongs on a big stage where maybe you have 20 meters to your band member, and the front guys can use in-ears, and backing guys probably wouldn't. They will prefer to have a speaker system. But that's another world. There's a big festivals and things like that, and they have a touring system which is set up, and just plug it in and do small, tiny adjustments from monitor man on stage, which you have good communication. Sometimes you don't have a very good stage communication, and especially not with the in-ear system. Of course, you can talk to them, but yeah. And if they want to bring somebody up to the stage to play with them, which often happens, then you're fucked. If you don't have a couple of monitors hidden away somewhere, because if you put them up there and the wedges are there, I will guarantee you that these guys will want the in-ear and the wedge. If you haven't played loud on a wedge before, you're gonna experience to play the loudest you ever played on a stage wedge, because they want to hear the wedge on top of the in-ear, and that's damn right. It's very close to impossible, and for a lead singer, it's the sound guy is gonna have a nightmare for days about this, because he needs the wedge to be so loud that it's almost impossible to handle, and then the feedback starts, and then you have it rolling. And if you're not experienced with this, stay off it, because if you really want good in-earing, it's gonna cost you. It's quite expensive, the system. And in my opinion, there are only 2 available good systems here. I don't know about abroad, but there's probably more, but if you're gonna invest in air, and if you play a lot of large stages, it's a good thing. But be sure that you all have it, or at least the people in the front section have it. And I think if you want to buy this and be what do you call it, be on par with what's out there in the market, you go either buy a Shure system, which I prefer because it's very easy to work on, or a Sennheiser system. These are the upper end of the market price-wise, but there's a reason for that. Because these systems are, 1, very dependable, 2, reasonably noise-free, 3, you get parts very easy for them, 4, they drive any earbud. That's a big point, because these earbuds are very different. The standard ones, I think the best ones are from Shure. But there is tons of different stuff out there, and if you're gonna go up market on this, you could have a 4-way, 4-driver system, which I think it's completely, you don't need that. But if you want a standard, nice sounding system, in my opinion, the Shure is the best, but this is very individual what you like. But be sure they can handle whatever you want to throw in into this. And second thing, never do it in one ear at a time. It's outright dangerous, because you overcompensate on one of the ears. So that's not a good. Either both, and they should be very close, so you don't actually hear much from the outside world, and that's it takes some getting used to, I tell you that, because you lose all your connection with your audience if you don't have a system for listening back. You won't be able to communicate with the audience, and that's not a very good thing. That it's unprofessional, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. So The worst case scenario is the band just bought this stuff and never used it before. And the sound check that, okay, we can get used to this. But then in the show, they start, this doesn't work for me. I can't hear anything. What's going on out there? And they start taking this out. And then what? They have no monitors. Because if you're smart, you remove the wedges away. If this is the case, I usually keep a side fill up. Just to so they don't lose themselves completely up there. And if you're smart, you don't use the in-ear on a concert. The first time ever you're gonna use it, don't use it on a big concert, because it's gonna it's gonna be a very strange experience for you. And usually it takes 4 or 5 jobs to get this system right. Personally, for the artist. If you're not touring with a sound guy, I think you're better off not using it, because it takes up too much rig time, and some guys even have their own system. They bring a split system, and you split out everything to them, and they want to mix their own ears. That's okay. It sounds really, really tempting. And I don't have to do any monitor. These guys do it themselves. But there's a big but. They eat all the time you should use for more constructive stuff, like tuning your system and things like that. Yeah, you don't have the time, because the stage is busy from the get-go till the show start. They can use hours on this shit. And you would normally use maybe 5-10 minutes on the whole operation, but they suddenly the keyboard player, he can't. I want to hear just a little bit more of this and a little bit less, and maybe we have 3 or 4 keyboards, and then okay. In this song, the balance is not right because blah 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 blah. Then they go through all the songs. And this, for them, it's okay. I mean, they don't have anything else to do, and the only time that you got to work a little bit is when they leave the stage to eat or drink or whatever. And then, now I have at least maybe 10-15 minutes to tune my system and get this right. Only thing you've been doing is checking that you have all your signals going in, and but you cannot tune the PA with a band. That's not possible. At least I can't. Maybe some of you can, but I can't. So it's up to your experience, of course. And I need a little bit of time for myself to set the delays right and everything you might want to do. And I need to listen to the system with familiar stuff, not the band I never heard before, and it might sound good with nobody's in the room, but then it comes a lot of people there, and everything changes. So there's no actual point in doing a big sound check, for me at least. You have to do it when the people arrives, and the room goes from 0 till, let's say, 1,000 or 400, 500, 100 people or whatever. There's a big mass of people that you really need to take into consideration. So that's why you have to set the level you're gonna play, and tonight it's about, let's say, 800 people, and you need to balance it out in the room and everything, and you can't do that with the band suddenly playing this and that, and communicating in internal. It's not possible. You can do it if you have 5 hours. You can play with this band for hours on hours on, and if you're touring with a specific band, you probably can do it. I've been doing that a lot, and just ring up and short. But then they don't use this kind of time on the ears. The more experienced, the less time on stage for the audience. That's if they really want to do this right, do it somewhere else in a pre-production setting, not in a production. It's not the way to go. There is a big factor in this world that's called cost. Even to rent a good in-ear system is quite expensive. So if you really want to go that way, be sure to have enough jobs to justify the investment. I usually don't recommend people that don't tour with a specific monitor man or whatever. Don't just throw it in the lap of the sound guy, because it's not very polite to do that. And at least tell him, make a phone call and tell him that I'm bringing in here and it's this and this kind, and you need this and this cabling. Some of the guys bring their own cable sets, and it's a piece of cake. And but if the sound I don't know in beforehand that in there is coming, then if he knows that you're coming with an in-ear system, and tell him what kind of system, how many systems, do you have the cabling for it? It's quite important. And do you have the earbuds for it? Or do you need earbuds provided from a supplier? This is not things that you have laying around in your suitcases. Probably. At least I don't. Not this kind of quality. Anyway, I have some small things, but they don't qualify on this level. So I have a little bit more coffee now outdoor, and as usual, I hope this has been informative for some of you guys that are considering in-ear systems. By all means, there are a lot of really beneficial things by using an in-ear system, but there is a few cons, and I really urge you to consider before you go to invest in this expensive gear. And if you're in a band, make sure all of you buy the same. Don't just order something from somewhere. And there are a few rules regarding the setup of this wireless things. If you have wireless mics as well, always set the in-ear antennas behind the wireless microphones, because they can interfere and you have a new bag of problems that you didn't expect. Usually artists don't think about it, they just throw them up, and I would go as far as to say, without the blades, these things are pretty much useless. If you get dropouts, you have a problem, a really big problem, and the front of house guy can't do anything about that, because suddenly there is a problem, and yeah, shit happens, especially in the wireless world. A lot of shit happens. So as usual, grab your mics, take care, go out there and record something.